Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm
Good
Karen
morning.
Hillman. I'm the productivity coach here at KW Living. And this is Lauren Baker. Lauren Baker is a team leader and she is, I'll let you talk. Why don't you tell us who you are and about yourself?
Okay, so I'm Lauren Baker. I've actually been in real estate for about 9 years. I've run a team called the Lauren Baker Group. We're a family-run team with my mom and dad, and we have one full-time admin. So thanks for coming, and we're here to teach make and receive offers.
Make and receive offers. So yeah, this is the last day of week 5. Very exciting. So after today, there's only one more week and you will have graduated your first Ignite class. Congrats on that. All right, go ahead. We'll get started.
All right.
We're on session 17, so it'll be chapter 17 in your
How do we
book.
get down to the next slide?
Well, that's, there we go.
Okay.
All right. We're going to skip right through that and we'll go ahead and begin with the offer process.
Okay.
It starts with a quote.
Okay. So this quote says, I'd like to think of sales as the ability to gracefully persuade, not manipulate a person or persons into a win-win situation. So that's probably one of my favorite things about KW is because we always look for the win-win. At the end of the day, this is not about us. It's genuinely about our clients and giving them the best experience and asking what they want through the transaction. Okay, so today we're going to start with the offer process. Is that correct? We in there?
Yep, I was
Okay.
just went back to the,
Perfect. Okay. So is everybody actually making calls on these in the classes and everything too?
everybody has an accountability partner you should be meeting with, right? You're
Okay.
talking to your accountability partner. They should be doing their lead generation every day. That's what they talk about in their accountability sessions.
How's everybody doing with that? Good? Awesome. Progress, not perfection, right? Okay, are you guys familiar with the KW belief system? Have you guys talked about that at all, though? Has anyone gone over that?
Go ahead.
Okay,
A
so,
refresher is always good.
yep, it's the WI4C2TES. So what that is, it's a win-win or no deal. Has to be a win-win on both sides. You got a lot of people out there who, they want it their way or the highway. And really, it really just does a disservice for everyone. So we are a firm believer in making sure that we have a win-win or no deal. Integrity, doing the right thing, even when nobody's looking. Customers always come first. Commitment in all things. Communication, seek first to understand. So I was actually in MAPS coaching for 5 years. And what I will never forget this, one of the first things out of my coach's mouth was selling isn't telling, selling is asking questions. So our job is really to be the person who we're like the mediator between the buyer and the seller. So our job is to then gather as much information as we have. We want to then present all of the options to the client and then let them make their best decision. It's not really up to us what we think is best. It's what they want to do and how they want to move forward so they feel good about everything. So creativity, ideas before results, teamwork, together everyone achieves more. Trust starts with honesty. So if we've got information, we have to share it with them. Otherwise, it can come back to bite us later. It's just best to get everything out. Everyone's on the same page and we're all open. Equity, opportunity for all, and success results through people. All right, any questions on this?
I would add, yesterday I wasn't here because I attended the KW Effect event with Aaron Kaufman yesterday. And one of the things that was shared with us was what your clients value in you. So on this page that they handed out, it shows at the bottom what your clients value. Now we're talking about buyers and sellers making offers and the offer process, making and receiving offers. But I thought it would be important right now to share with you, because we talked about the Y4C23, I can never say it right. that.
Yep.
And oddly enough, what do you think that sellers and buyers for that matter, what is of most value to them? So the options are price, commission, friends and family, the paperwork, reputation, and trustworthiness.
Trustworthy.
So the first one is reputation and the second one is trustworthiness, right? Guess what the last one is? Price.
Mhm.
It's not about price. It's about value. It's about the why. It's about understanding and asking questions.
It is.
So just kind of,
Okay, how many
expounding on
people
that.
have actually wrote an offer in here? How'd it go?
Well.
Good, good. How about you guys?
how about more than just good? What were some of the questions that you got or the pushback and that sort of thing? Let's talk about that. Please feel free to chime in, Legacy and Elevate. What happened during your, you wrote an offer, then what happened?
Had the inspection, it was accepted. Then we had the inspection. And there were some issues that had to be addressed. The seller addressed them. Had that, old box and that Federal Pacific box
Yep.
Mhm.
had to be replaced. And they had, knob and tube in the attic.
So you had some challenges to overcome and you had to
Right.
negotiate them.
Yes,
Awesome.
we were able to, they said they were. Okay. Really?
So when you're making the offer, buyer makes the offer is the very first one. So talk about how to do that. How do you
Okay,
prepare that offer?
so it's asking too, like, what emotions do you think buyers and sellers are having at this stage of the process? So a lot of times they're excited, they're worried, right? I mean, we're coming out of a very strong market where we were in multiple offers and people were asking well over asking. And now we're really starting to see that adjustment. And so I think that, as you go ahead and prepare your buyer for an offer, the buyer consultation is really the start of everything. Because when you get into that buyer consultation, that's where you can genuinely prep your clients to be prepared for when they are making the offer. So do we have that pre-approval letter in place? Are they prepared for that? Do they know what's going on in the market? So that way, when it's time to write the offer, they know what to be looking for. We always go through everything and say, I want to make sure that get as much information from the listing agent as I possibly can. And I would have to say that communication with the listing agent is probably one of the most important things that you can do for your client.
Before you make the offer, right?
So one of the things that we do, on our team is, we always reach out to the agent. So as soon as I know we're writing an offer, I immediately call. And I just say, have the conversation. And it's unbelievable how much information a listing agent will actually share with you that they're probably not supposed to be sharing. But also too, I want to know that we've got all of the information in place. So when we do make our offer, we have the best advantage. So I will always call the listing agent and say, hey, I just showed your property on 123 Main Street. I'm just curious. So we're thinking about writing an offer, or we're considering writing the offer. Is there anything that would be beneficial to the seller that would help us with our offer? And they'll go, oh, price. Give me a high price. Okay, great. So I understand price is important to your seller. And do they have to be out by a certain time? Is there a deadline? Are they renting are they going to rent when they move? Do they have another place? Do they need to find another place to go? Because that helps us decide, do we need 60 days? Do we need 45 days? Do we need to give them extra possession? Is that something that even possible for my buyer when we go to head write the offer? I also want to know the information, like what's the age of the roof? Was the septic system tested so far? All that stuff comes into play. So I know when we go to write the offer, we're writing all of that in ahead of time. All right.
If you look at page 17.4 in your books, there's a checklist.
Oh, they have books.
Yeah. So the second one is about building rapport with the listing agent. I would add that just ask the question. If you have a question, just ask it. You never know what information that you're going to get. I like to use the word finish line. What can we put in our offer that will get us to the finish line? What are they looking for? And sometimes, does this ever happen to you? The listing agent will say, well, we really want to work with a certain title company.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about that.
Oh, yeah. So, I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of agents have affiliated business agreements with a title company. So basically, every month or every quarter, they would get a kickback check based on what the production was out of that title company. So a lot of larger agents, I would say, have very strong opinions on what title company they use. And at the end of the day, does it really matter? It doesn't. Because it's not about me, it's not about us, it's really genuinely about the client and doing what's best for them. So if I have an agent that really pushes back on a title company, it's generally fine.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, it's funny though, because RESPA says that the buyer should get to choose what title company they want to use. But in a seller's market, when we're up against not very many houses on the market,
Mhm.
right? And we're up against probably other offers,
Multiple offers, yep.
then we're gonna listen. We're gonna listen when they say that. And I mean, I do.
It's true.
Yeah,
That's starting to change now, though, I feel like that.
You think
It
so?
is. It
It's
is.
starting to,
yeah.
as houses sit on the market.
I actually just had dinner the other night with another agent from KW out in the Menor office. And he said, yeah, he goes, I listed this property, Lauren, and he goes, he said, I was thinking that, we would have multiple offers on this. He goes, I got two. He goes, they were both under asking and they were FHA. He said, but the market's shifting though. We're starting to see that difference. He said 6 months ago, he said, I wouldn't have even worked with an FHA buyer. Unfortunately, he goes, because I would not have been able to get their offer even accepted. So
Mhm.
it's nice now to see that
Mhm.
it's all kind of leveling back out a little bit.
And price isn't everything in your offer either. I
It's
mean,
not.
necessarily, but if you talk to the agent, they'll tell you, what does the seller want to see in their offer? Sometimes they'll tell you. Well, they need time.
Time.
They like a week after closing. And if they don't say that, I ask them, do they need time after
Mhm.
after the closing to move out? Right? What are some other terms that you might negotiate in there?
I like to find out always, one, is the property even still available? I mean, that's not as common right now. And yet 6 months ago, that was very common where you would go show the house and they're like, oh, we already have 5 offers on it and we're making the decision at 4 o'clock tonight. And you're like, oh.
Yeah. That's
Um,
tough.
And then also I would have to say building rapport with the agent. So being friends and making connections with the other agents that are in the industry, it can make a world of difference. I mean, I've got some agent friends out there and I'm like, okay, what's it gonna take? Like, what do we have to do? And we can have those quick conversations of, Lauren, just give me this, this, and this, and we're probably good, or I need you just to come up like maybe a little bit more than. And so I'm like, okay, perfect. So then I can go back to my buyer and say, they said, we just come up this little tiny bit. Are you good with that? And then from there, we can decide how we want to move forward.
I've had people ask me if I need to be above the asking price if we're in multiples.
Yes. Yep. Yep. I've had that asked.
And I say, I can't tell you that.
Correct.
I do say that, but I've asked people that very same question and they've told me.
Yes. Yep.
In the multiple, you've been in the two, and it's driving me crazy, and I didn't get either one of them. I did talk with the agent and, but she went with someone else and something happened and it's back on the market. And I asked my clients, would you like to go back? They said no. So when you're in a multiple, how high would you go over the asking price?
So if
The
you,
question, I don't know if can you hear Doris? I don't know if you're able to hear her or not. Somebody let me know. Anyway, the question was, how high over the asking price should I go?
I can hear her.
there's a couple ways to gauge that. And what we would do on our team is I would go back to the multiple listing service and I would run the comps. And then I could see what percentage over asking price homes were actually going in that area. And then I could go back to my client and say, houses are selling around 5% over right now. So if it's 105%, I know they're going up like 5% over. And so we generally have to be at least that or maybe a little bit more.
Are you running comps for your buyers before you write offers? Good, good, you should be. Yeah, because you got to educate them.
Let's see here. Oh, so that's another thing for a property maybe that came back on the market and your client wants to go see it. I always call that agent. So I see that the property just came back up on the market. We're gonna take a look at it. Can you give me any insight on what happened? And they'll say, oh, we had an inspection thing and we fixed X, Y, and Z, or, oh, it was financing, or it was this. And so just try and gauge why it came back on the market. And then always ask, like we talked about already, ask the questions about the seller motivations, like, do they need to move? You know, sometimes you can even get, like when the multiples were happening, we could even get, you know, what if we have inspections? And then they'll say, oh, I've got an offer already with no inspections on it. So if you can beat that,
Yeah,
which was kind of nice if there were multiple offers and you knew you were going in and you knew you were going to be a little bit low, maybe you didn't have to write the offer then because you knew we weren't going to get it anyways.
right.
And I would never recommend that our clients do not get a home inspection ever. So
We have a form in the loop you should be using that says, I recommended that you get a home inspection.
mhm.
We still have to fill that out even if we have the.
Even
inspection.
if they say no, yeah, and you're not submitting, especially if they're not gonna do an inspection.
No, but I mean, even if they do an inspection, we still.
Even
have
if,
to-
yeah, there's a box that says, yes, I've been advised, and yes, I'm having
My
one.
buyers look at me like I'm an idiot then, they're like, okay, I have an inspection, you know, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is important because it protects you. Because if you had a problem and you went back and we need to have it in our file, we need to have something that shows that, you know, you were given 3 people to call and that you either did or you didn't, and you were advised as such. That's a big deal, really big deal. You know, I wanted to go back to review the MLS and tax records.
Mhm.
When you're writing the offer, I don't know if this has happened to you before, but sometimes the parcel numbers are not correctly written into the MLS and you transfer that information. Sometimes like if they'll put the name, I've had this happen too, they put the name of the sellers on the MLS sheet and the name isn't correct, or it was a trustee and we didn't put, whenever you transfer information over, if you can double check it, you should.
So we were in a little bit of a pickle on one right now. So we actually wrote an offer on a property that was listed in the multiple listing service twice with 2 different agents under 2 different brokerages.
What?
Uh-huh. So we called the one agent, scheduled the showing, wrote the offer, realized that the other one, then after that, we realized that there was another, that same property was in the multiple listing service twice. So we've got Rick involved in it and everything already. So Greg on my team, who's also my dad, he said, Lauren, why don't you call the other agent and see what you can find out? Because
Right.
we had already written the offer, not
Oh my
knowing.
gosh.
So I called her, I said, hey, I said, we're trying to show this property. I said, I see it's listed in the multiple listing service twice. You know, what's going on? And she said, well, this other brokerage has it. However, we have the listing because I have it signed by the owners who are in the hospital. So the one just came out of COVID. We found out that her husband didn't sign. She signed for her husband with that other agent. And then she said, well, I also have the power of attorney that signed. So then the other group of agents is telling us that they have it signed by the trustees. It's a hot mess. So right now it's going through
Goodness.
titles, trying to get it
Yeah.
all figured out. And then we have to get a lawyer involved to,
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
but those are just questions though that,
Yeah,
I mean, we knew it was coming. But we had to get the offer in. So at least our client had
Yeah.
the property and then we can figure out the details. So.
what are some other things that you could look for in the MLS or the tax record, just to verify?
I call the tax record, you go down to that core logic.
Core logic, and what do you look
says-
for there?
Well, it says what the minimum they consider for the property, the maximum and then the real AVM, and then it gives you the percentage of accuracy.
That's great.
And then the standard deviation.
So you're looking at that for your comps too?
Yeah,
Yep,
Mhm.
awesome. How about your taxes? Sometimes they write the taxes in and they're getting a homestead exemption.
Yeah.
right.
So if they're getting a homestead exemption and the person that you represent as the buyer doesn't have a homestead exemption, then the taxes could be higher, right? Right. Cool. The other thing I note on here is the pre-approval letter.
Yes, making sure that we always have that pre-approval letter when we submit it to the buyer, or submit it to the listing agent. We will not accept an offer on our team without one.
Got to look at the date too.
And I always call. We always call the lender when we receive an offer, just to verify funds are there and they're good.
And they'll tell you, I mean, for example, if the date, we'll get right back to you, Doris. If the date was, it was written, let's say it was written on August 15th. What could be wrong? Interest rates, exactly right. Does that person still qualify at the current interest rate? Hi, El Marie, I see you over there. Yeah, you got to make sure. So you do call the lender and make sure that we're good to go. So you don't have anything that's going to pop up. If there's something wrong on your offer letter, it's going to have to be corrected, right? And once you make the offer and you find out the taxes later are, there was a homestead exemption,
Right.
that's a whole nother ball of wax, right?
So
If you're-
something else that you can do too, if you're questioning that, is you can actually send the property address to the lender beforehand. They can run all the numbers. So
They
your
should
client,
ask, yeah.
their client will then have a good idea of what their interest rate is. They'll have an idea of what their down payment looks like, what their monthly payment will look like. The lender can literally run everything specific to that property. So then that way they know they're comfortable.
And if there was people that I was working with, when they ran the numbers, it was a different community and the monthly taxes were like $200 different.
Mhm.
Yep,
Like, okay, we're
yeah.
not looking in that community anymore
Right.
because, yeah.
Yeah.
So Lauren, this is a great place to stop and let each market center answer questions specifically about writing the offer and questions that might come up.
Perfect.
So let's take about 8 minutes, we'll come back here at 9:30. And if y'all will mute your screens up there, that way we can stay unmuted here and include the people that are in the chat that are online, okay? All right, 8 minutes, we'll bring you back here at 9:30. So let's talk about some of the questions, some of the things that have popped up or questions that you might have about writing an offer.
Hey Karen, can you mute you guys so that we don't hear you?
Is somebody talking to me?
Yeah, hi, it's Gara. Can you guys mute yourselves so that we can't hear you? Zoom people can still hear you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Why does she want us to mute?
Because so they can hear us, everyone, we're distracting them.
No, we need to hear you guys.
Yeah, see,
So-
the people online, Gara, the people online can't hear us if we mute. That's why we ask everybody else to mute their screens.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so questions even, or comments if you want to make from the people that are on Zoom or in the classroom about writing the offer. What are some of the challenges or ideas, things you want to share that work really well for you?
I've got one. This is Alicia. Sorry, I'm not feeling well. I feel like, along with asking the listing agent ahead of time for the terms that the seller prefers. I've been in multiple offer situations where we were tied before, and I feel like one of the things, this is kind of random, but one of the things that I feel like I took away was the fact that not to come in at an even number necessarily, because you can edge somebody out by just like $200, $500, or $257, something really random,
Really hoping that would be on.
Okay. Michael, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying, I feel like just being aware of the point of sale inspections that need to take place and making sure you define
Good.
who's completing them and who's taking care of them.
Do you
Yep.
know where to get that information?
Point of sale?
So
Elgar has, if you go to Lake and John County Association of Realtors, they do have a point of sale checklist or the point of sale by city. And so it literally lists every city basically in Cleveland. It says yes or no, and it gives you the fee and the number to call.
I'm sure that ACAR also has a
You just
similar
call
list,
the building.
or the building department of the city that the home is listed in. So yeah, very good point.
I
You've
think
got to
building
understand that.
report is such a
Title.
with the listing agent, because I just had a situation yesterday where I was with an investor looking at a property that was selling in Shaker, and there was no information on the listing. Whether it was in the MLS or, they didn't have a POS, attached, anything like that. And so I was just like, you know what, we're here, I'm gonna call a listing agent. And we talked for about 15 minutes about the property, and I got so much information for my buyer to kind of make a decision if he's gonna place an offer or not. So I thought that was really important.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I always call the listing agent, and during the tough times. They wouldn't even answer the phone. I was calling because I
Some
want to
don't.
build that rapport, I want to get, and they're not answering the phone.
Yeah, don't let that be you.
Oh.
Don't be that agent.
I know. It's like, come on, I need to talk to you, you'll like me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, remember what Amanda said on Tuesday about encourage them, just write the offer. Just send us an offer.
Mhm.
We'll figure it out,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
They want to encourage them to write the offer. The more offers you can present to your client, the better, right? Very good. What else? Janice, were you saying something? Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just saying that your title company also has list of what cities need a point of sale inspection. And then also I heard Kim talking about, calling the listing agent. I would always call before I even go and show, just so you can establish that rapport before you even get to the house. Just to kind of know if they have any offers, what their seller is looking for, anything that they know about the house that, any issues, or, if there's a point of sale inspection, when is it being done? Just so you kind of have that information up front before you even go and look.
Mhm.
So what about love letters?
Oh, buddy.
Is it illegal to do love letters?
No.
No, it's not. There's an advisory that you shouldn't do it. It could be considered a fair housing violation. Do you have clients that still tell you, we want you to submit this love letter?
And they wanted to do a love letter, and they're like, oh, my girlfriend, they had showed 8 houses, and then they did a love letter and they got it.
So what do you tell them, Kim?
Well, I finally let them do it.
So what do you do to protect yourself if you let
Well,
them do
I
it?
told them, yeah, anything in there about any,
Okay, so what you do is you say, I understand, and I know that other agents do that.
right, oh, yeah.
So if I work for you, if you're instructing me to send a love letter, I will, but I'm going to send you an email that says that writing a love letter is maybe considered a fair housing violation.
Right, so, yeah. But then.
And
she
you're gonna
also went on
respond,
to
I
say
understand,
that
so.
That was the offer that they didn't do an inspection on either. I'm like, okay, well, that's what got the deal, not the love letter.
All right,
But if
Have
it's-
something, Karen. Can you hear me?
go ahead, Leah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt. I was trying to wait till she was done.
Yep, we've got 2 minutes, go.
Okay, perfect. So, in regards to the love letter, I had a client recently, this just happened, where he wanted to talk to the seller directly. And I mean, he was like adamant. I mean, I was representing the buyer, of course. He was adamant about talking to the seller. And I just kind of told him, I said, well, okay, and I don't know if I did this right. So this is good for me to know. But I did talk to the listing agent about it. And she discussed it with her client, and the client didn't want to speak to, of course, didn't want to speak. She, wanted the realtors just to handle the negotiations, of course.
Right.
But the buyer felt like they could compel the seller on the price because of different reasons. And I'm like, well, that's what you hired me to do. But
Yep.
it was like, they were really like adamant about it though. Like, I just need to talk to the seller. And I'm thinking like, that's just not how the process normally works. So what
Yep.
would you do in that case? Like if somebody came to you and said, I really want to talk to the seller directly.
I am not permitted to contact the seller. I am only permitted to work with you and the cooperating broker.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And
Okay.
if they're pressing you to talk to the
We lost you there. Okay.
Is it,
All right.
is it illegal or is it just not?
No, it's against, yeah, you'll get in trouble as a real estate agent. You are not allowed to talk to the seller without their agent. You are allowed to communicate with the listing agent and your buyer.
Absolutely. Right,
So,
that's it.
Yeah. Hmm?
Okay.
If you want to ask for a round table, that's a good point. Why don't you talk about that?
So if your client wanted to get directly in front of the seller, which I did have this happen as well along with several years ago. We
Mhm.
actually did what they call a round table. So I
Okay.
reached out to the listing agent and said my seller or my buyer would like to meet directly with your client and everyone together. Would you be open to doing a round table negotiation? So we literally all got together at a Howard Hanna office and sat there and negotiated right there on the spot and nailed it all out.
But the listing agent is
wow.
there also, yeah.
Correct. So I was there representing my client, the listing agent was there representing their client, and we were all able to openly talk freely on how we were going to move forward with this offer.
And that is legal.
Don't
Mhm.
some states require that in some sense?
I have heard that, yeah, I have heard that.
Mhm.
Didn't we do that years ago?
Yeah.
Yep, years ago, it used to be that way. That's true. All right, let's get back to it here. All right, so so let's talk about, we'll start out with, let's start out with Legacy. Legacy, what did you come up with that you could share with us that we didn't talk about together? About writing the offer? Is Legacy on? Maybe not. Okay, elevate. Can't hear you.
Okay, so we discussed the importance, I know you touched on this about calling a lender. Yet, I would say digging a little bit deeper as far as, asking, they might be willing to share, they might not be. But asking them, what exactly have they qualified, what has the buyer provided, and just digging deeper into that lending, especially, when you narrow it down to one or two offers that the seller's really considering. Just the importance of speaking with that lender in detail.
Awesome. Yep, we talked about that too. What else? Anybody else? Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and move forward. So now we're talking about,
Writing the offer. Okay. So when we're ready to write an offer, we go over several items. We always talk about, ask our buyer, what price do they want? And as far as the terms go, so we sit down, we also review the seller disclosure. It's really good to sit down with your client and review this document in detail. Just because whatever you see on there, you're basically committing to that, yes, you agree, that you acknowledge that it's there. So it's good to review all of that up front.
You do it with the buyer?
Yes.
Yes.
we're on page 17.6 if you're looking.
I would, just because, we have so many times when we've had people come back and they buy the house and all of a sudden there's water in their basement after closing. And you're like, come on. And you're like, oh no, did I miss it on the disclosure? So it's best if you just have everybody review it up front. Earnest money. As far as earnest money goes, we talk about this at the buyer consultation. So I think we generally do a minimum of 1,000. If it's an FHA buyer, I will sometimes bring it down to 500, but I've seen this go all the way as high as 25,000. So we usually see 1,000 to 2,500, 5,000. And then, like I said, I think 25,000 was our highest that we've ever had for a cash offer that we did.
We just put in a cash offer for 312. And so she was just gonna do 12,000 for the earnest money, but then anything over 10,000, you have to wire transfer. So
It's true.
we just backed it down to 10.
Call it a day. So you're talk about the due diligence with the inspection period. So we go over with our clients that, once we get the home inspection, we've got 3 days to get back to the seller with any health and safety items. We really genuinely try and stress the health and safety. So we're not completely nitpicking. Mold really doesn't freak us out anymore so much. I think it sounds scary at first, but once you get in here, we find in the inspection period, honestly, the biggest thing is that people don't properly ventilate their bathrooms. And so the mold, gets ventilated up into the attic, and then you get mold up in the attic. So that seems to be one of the most common things that we see. Time for seller acceptance. So that's probably also part of that conversation that you're having with the listing agent. How much time do we need? You know, are they waiting for more showings? Or do they have 10 more showings tomorrow and they're waiting? Do they have a deadline set up that they're reviewing all offers? So you can kind of throw that in there and put that date in there if you need to. Otherwise, my high D kicks in and I want to get it done. So usually after I get the offer in, I'm like, okay, how soon are you meeting? Did you receive it? I want to know everything. And then if I don't hear anything, I'm following up probably within 4 to 5 hours, maybe.
Yeah,
It drives me bonkers when offers sit for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Insane. So financing terms, so it depends on what kind of loan that your buyer has. So you can talk about that. Do they need closing cost assistance? That's something to talk with the lender about. I'm currently working with an FHA buyer. They need all the closing cost assistance. So I've either got to increase our offer price to bake that in, or we're going to have to just go in and asking and then ask for them to take care of that seller concession. Buyer pre-approval letter, we talked about that already with your lender. Closing date, so that again goes back to the listing agent. Do they need time? Are we good? Do they need a quick close? Do they need a little bit longer? Do they need occupancy after title transfer? The home warranty, so we're actually dealing with this right now. We had another warranty company that came in. So we tried to submit the America's Preferred. They said they already had one. We have an issue with the furnace. To find out that we have to use their contractor, our buyer was like, I should have read the fine print and gone with the America's Preferred, because she did not want to use the contractor that they're having. So just something to keep in mind that when you're doing the home warranties.
yeah, HSA is one of the home warranty companies that you have to use their contractors. With America's Preferred Home Warranty, you can use your preferred contractor.
What's the
That's
other name of the?
HSA.
And Cinch is another one, and they've been very challenging to work with as well. So just
What's
something,
the last one?
Cinch, I think is what it was,
Yeah.
CINCH, I
Mhm.
believe.
Mhm.
We had a client that used them and they were very, very, very frustrated. And we usually have such a good relationship with America's Preferred that if our clients have issues, we can generally call our rep. And we've been able to help out our clients with that because of the
Mhm.
relationship we have with them. Repair limits, so that's probably what just with your home inspection, just any repairs that need to be taken care of. After we write our offer and we go through the home inspection process, if we do have any repairs that need to be done, we write very explicitly that it has to be done by a certified contractor and we have to have paid receipts. I will tell you a story. So I sold a house in Menor when I first got into the business and we did the home inspection. There was a small gas leak on the fitting for the water tank, I believe.
Oh, boy.
And so the seller was handy. So the listing agent told me that the seller could easily replace this. Okay, we're good. Let it go. Thought we were all good. Showed us the picture. They changed out the fitting. My buyer goes to get contractors into the house before she moves in. She has all oak trim throughout this entire house. The entire thing is being painted white. She's got her cabinets being painted white. Everything's being done. She's ripping out flooring, has contractors all over. To get a phone call that the entire house smells like gas. I had to call the gas company to have the gas shut off. She had to have all of the contractors removed from the property. We delayed their work by probably 3 or 4 days because the gas company does not work very quickly. To find out that the gas leak was actually down and up and in the ceiling of the drop floor. And it was much more severe than what we had ever realized. So after that experience, we have certified contractors that come in with paid receipts and we have proof that it was paid.
Did you have any recourse?
No. that's why.
No. Why?
I-
Because we didn't have a plumber that was certified.
Oh, crap, I got what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because we didn't have a plumber, a
Yep.
certified plumber to take care of the gas leak.
Do you have to put paid receipt as long as you have certified? Would that
I
be-
like them paid. I prefer that it's paid because if it's not, they can put a lien on the property.
Paid receipts, yes.
Yeah.
He's been, getting rid of some of his property. He's been an investor for a very long time. But he does a lot of rehab work himself. Like he, he has contractors that do a lot of his stuff. But then he fixes a lot of things. Like he's really like handy. So he works on a lot of his houses. So, everything has worked out so far with him with his property, but if you're looking for paid receipts from someone who's working on their own home, kind of, not that they're doing all the work, but I'm saying if they're doing some of it, does that bother you guys to have somebody to do that? If they're-
Who gets to make the decision? The buyer, right? The buyer does, but what's your job?
But I'm saying if the seller is not willing to pay a certified contractor because he does the work. I'm not saying like, well, maybe if you don't have a deal in it, and that's
Right.
fine, but sometimes sellers are, I'm talking about more of an investor client, so I'm not talking about just like a regular seller.
So are you speaking from the buyer side or the? Oh, but it just depends what the buyer asks for.
But she was saying pay receipts, so, I guess if he's not certified, if he, somebody could be really good at putting drywall up, but they may not have certification. So what is that?
I need to know that they're a professional. They've got a company. They've got some type of receipt that they can provide us
Okay.
from a contractor is what I need.
Okay.
And they can guarantee their work.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, like we had another property where the GFCIs needed to be replaced. We had asked for that to be done. And then the buyer's dad came in and literally went in and checked every single plug. And he's like, these aren't working. And so I said, well, good news is that this electrician did the work and we can reach back out to them and they can get it corrected for you.
Right.
So basically what it does though, because our job is to protect our client at the end of the day. And so when we go on listing appointments, we do tell our clients that if you know you've got something, GFCI, something minor that you can fix, please go ahead and do it now. Because when the inspector comes in, we're going to require that you do pay a professional to get this done. My job is to protect you as my client. And therefore I would like for you to hire that contractor to take that liability off of you, and we're putting it on them instead.
Yeah, and I would definitely, since we're talking about writing the offer,
Yeah.
I would
We're getting sidetracked.
No, yeah, I'm just thinking that I would in that case, because it happens a lot when people say, I did most of the remodel in this house, I'm a certified electrician, or I'm in the HVAC business, I can fix that so easily.
Right.
I would, if I have the buyer would say they could probably do it themselves, and I understand they want to save money and do it themselves. I would ask them to guarantee it in writing, because
And
if there's a problem, then,
you could also go back to your home inspector and ask what they would charge to come back out and reevaluate the work that was
Good point.
completed.
Oh, right.
good point.
That's another way to do it.
Yeah, just remember that it's got to be in your contract. It's got to be in your offer, which will become your contract.
The other thing to review, any special clauses that you may have, seller to contribute up to X, Y, and Z, or, X amount towards buyer's closing cost points, prepaids, insurance, et cetera. You may have a clause with, if you've got a for sale by owner that, the seller agrees to pay a commission of X to Keller Williams Living out of seller proceeds. You can add those additional terms in there. Maybe their point of sale isn't completed, so maybe you're writing in that clause of, offer is contingent on passing point of sale inspection by the seller.
Very good point. Yeah, all those contingencies, I write them out.
I do too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I write them out. in
And then
there.
any other addendum that you might need. So for example, like Jaga County, we always have that Jaga County septic addendum, whether the
Mhm.
buyer's paying for it, the seller's paying for it, and how we're gonna be negotiating that.
But Joe kind of doesn't need a septic inspection anymore, right?
They're technically, the point of sale is no longer there. However, the way we look at it is you're still required to have a passing septic system.
Yep, if I'm representing the buyer, I'm gonna suggest that the buyer have the septic system checked, because that's a big ticket if
It
it's
is.
not working. Big money. So then we have an inspection anyway.
Okay. So next slide here. Any questions on that? Okay, so when we receive the offer, we review the contract. We be sure that the buyer understands the contract. Review the details, the price, the closing date, the inspections, the contingencies, the conveyances, et cetera. Know what's essential in your area. I mean, because not all cities have point of sales, not all cities have septic systems. So just making sure that you know what's going on in the location that you're in. Know standard or common terms for offers in your area and avoid rookie agent mistakes. I remember I wrote my first offer. It literally took me all day. All day. So it's awesome that we do have that PC program that you can have
Yeah.
somebody help you write an offer.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
What are some of the rookie mistakes you think that can be made?
Not confirming appliances that are staying. versus-
Confirming
Oh,
the
that's a goodie.
appliances that are staying or going. That's a good one.
There are a lot
Yeah.
of people had to buy a refrigerator after closing.
Yep. Yeah. I've had to buy a washer and dryer before.
Yep.
What else? Some rookie mistakes that you think could be made on an offer.
Don't, after you've asked for certified contractors with paid receipt, make sure you get it before closing.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause
I-
I closed and then,
Yep. Yeah. Or you might be buying a home warranty if it says in the MLS that the seller was willing to, but you didn't put it in the contract.
Mhm.
Make sure you're paying attention and asking who's paying for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone else from the other offices?
Anybody else want to chime in?
Yeah, what you got?
so I have a question. So when they have like the appliances on the front of the contract, the first page, if you mark off appliances that may not come with the property, but because you're not, maybe not sure 100%, is that okay to just to cover that just in case they do come with it, or do you just have to like find, like, because when you're writing offers, sometimes you may not know every single thing. You look on the MLS, sometimes they don't list the appliances. I mean, so do you just kind of put them in there and then you go back and you can, change it later? I mean, what do you think about that? Like if you're not sure about the appliance in the beginning, when
I
you're
would
ready,
call.
just trying to get in.
I would call the agent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But what if, let's just say worst case, now you can't get them on the phone, and you're just like, I gotta get this offer in.
Then you put what it says in the MLS. That's what I do.
I would go back to the pictures.
Yeah.
But highest and best, like, you ask for as much as you can get. So if they don't put the washing machine on there and you check it off and they okay it, then they have to get you a washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
I ask for everything that's there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, the offers. When you get into the listing business and you're receiving offers. The cleaner your offer looks, the better. And if your offer has to end up in a court or brokers looking at it or anybody, if it's got crossouts and initials all over it and handwriting. I've seen some pretty messy offers. It can be very difficult to understand. So if you can't find out, find out. If you want something and it's not listed, put it in there for sure, right? Doris?
I wrote a mistake. I guess I was showing so many houses. I got confused when I was writing the offer. I didn't know, I thought the people had ceiling fans. And they did not have a ceiling fan. And the agent called me and said, have your people to initial that.
Yep, that's all you have to
There
do.
was not a ceiling.
Mhm.
Right, yep, I've done that too.
Another thing that we see, which I actually love, is when agents write me a summary page. I love it.
Oh,
It
yeah,
makes my heart so happy.
yeah. What's in the summary page?
Summary page could just include buyer's names, the type of financing, the price, the earnest money, yes or no to inspections. Any of the nitty gritty details of that offer on one page.
Home warranty,
Awesomeness.
yes, seller,
Awesomeness.
yep.
Our team uses a couple.
Yeah, we highly recommend it.
Yep.
It's so easy.
Okay,
I mean, anything that you can do to set yourself apart to make and also make your lives easier for the other agent. And because that means you're gonna be easier to work with. You've got it together. we know what we're doing. We're gonna make this process easy. We're gonna come together as a team and we're gonna get everybody to the closing table and have a win-win on both sides. Okay, anything else you can think of?
No, just make sure your buyer understands that contract. That's the most important thing. Because they don't read.
So I believe Rick Tannenbaum does a contracts class, correct?
He does. Rick Tannenbaum does a contracts class. We talked through a lot of this in productivity coaching also, but especially in your contracts, when you're explaining to them, make sure you go through that section about the inspections, that you're offering three remedies to any need for, when you do an inspection, if there's any need for repair, if you're asking for an inspection, you can accept it as is, you can ask for repairs, or you can walk away. That's your opportunity to tell them that we're going to focus on health and safety issues, because this isn't a new house. It's not going to be a brand new house. I've seen hundreds of inspection reports and they're usually 30 or 40 pages long. That's for your edification. So you know where everything is and what you can focus on when you move in. We're going to focus on the health and safety related issues. And the last thing that we want to do is overwhelm the seller with a bunch of requests, because once we ask for repair, it opens up the contract again for negotiation. They can say, no, thank you, we're walking away, right?
They can. A little side note here too, I think is just the bold law, keeping your emotions between the lines is huge in the process, especially with the negotiating. So having that relationship with the other agent is so important, and keeping your emotions out of it. So one of the things I think that drives me absolutely bonkers when I'm trying to negotiate an offer and the agent tells me, well, my seller's not going to do that. I said, well, fantastic. Did you ask your seller or your buyer about that?
Yeah.
Or I know my client's not going to take this. And how many people do we know that have had their mind made up about something? The circumstances change. All of a sudden, your feelings, your emotions are different about it. And then they change their mind, or we're willing to make it work because we're so close to the end. And there's no point losing a deal over a couple $100 or $1,000.
Right.
Usually.
Yeah.
So.
And I think what's the best thing you can do if you've got a client that's, or an agent that is upset and they're emotional.
So I actually had a couple agents hang up on me before it's happened, not gonna lie. I actually called them right back. And I said, I'm really sorry if we got off on the wrong foot. I said, I'm just trying, to get through this. And so we can have a win-win on both sides. And I actually had one of them was a KW agent, and he actually apologized. He goes, Lauren, he goes, I am so sorry. He said, you're right. I was like, thank you. I knew that. And then he said, just kidding. He said, you know what? He said, the sellers are actually really good friends of mine. He goes, and I didn't realize how emotionally involved I was in this. He said, so thank you so much for calling me back. And he's like, let's see what we can do to make it work.
Great.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you join in that energy, then that energy just compounds, right? But if you stay calm and you say, okay, let's talk it through, because I want you to be comfortable. Let's just bring it down. And it'll come down a little bit. It may.
Yes. Or the HOA. I mean, I had my biggest sale, I think it was a $780,000 house. And it was all ready to fall apart over a fence that the HOA might not let them put on there. And so I've got the seller calling me saying, Lauren, I'm done. I'm walking away from this deal because blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, oh my God, right? And then I had to take a deep breath. I'm like, it's all going to work out. It'll be fine. It is what it is. If they don't buy this one, they're going to buy something else anyway. So maybe it's just not now. So we ended up calling the HOA and I said, these are your options. This is what they're coming back with. How do you want to move forward with it? And then afterwards, he said, Lauren, he said, I want to thank you so much, because he said, I was ready to walk away from this entire deal. He said, but you were so calm through the entire thing and you just laid it all out, the details. He said, so then we can make that decision, and we were able to move forward, and they had a beautiful home. So it worked out good.
Awesome. That's a good story too. Okay.
They did. They got their fence. In fact, so we ended up reselling the house last year for $900,000. And they were the only house in the neighborhood. It was in Canyon Lakes that had a fence that the HOA allowed. They actually don't allow them anymore, but it was,
Awesome.
they were like one of the first houses that went in. So,
Okay, let's talk about ahas for talking through the offer and writing the offer.
Definitely, well, it's not really with offers, but if a client wants something fixed, getting a certified contractor. A receipt.
mhm,
Yep,
it's to cover
Definitely
your,
smart. I would
Yeah.
not think about the lead.
Yeah.
But that's-
and covering your, just covering you
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
your client. It's huge.
yeah, and if you represent the buyer, you're, in your consultation, you've prepared them. When you've written the offer and you're reviewing it, you're preparing them, right?
Mhm.
You want them to ask for that if we should ask for, ask for repairs. If I'm the seller's agent, I'm telling them that if they come back with repairs, they'll likely ask it to be done by a licensed and certified person and to provide a receipt. So we prepare them. The more we communicate, the better. Awesome, awesome. What else? Writing the offer and talking through the offer. Anything you're gonna do differently? Include a summary page. Awesome, yeah. Yeah,
You know what else
Good.
I think is really important too is as your client goes through this process, I remember when I took Bold, so I've taken Bold 7 times now, I think. And I remember one of the exercises that they had us do was we had you had a partner and one of us got blindfolded. And then the other one had to walk them around the room and they had shuffled all the chairs around and everything. And so you literally were guiding this person and you had to be like, okay, so step right, step left, walk 3 steps, blah, blah, blah. And the whole point of the exercise is that your clients are going into this blind. So it's our job to make sure that they know the process and they know what's coming next. So after we go under contract, we actually share a letter with our clients and it says, congratulations, you're under contract. Here are your next steps. So the offer is being sent to the title company. Your offer is being sent to the lender. Your earnest money is due on this date. Your inspection has to be scheduled within this date. These are your 3 inspectors that you can contact, or if you want to use one that you know personally, please feel free to do so. So they know all of their next steps as they walk through the whole process. And then that way they're not blindsided. Because that's our job to guide them through this. So that was
awesome.
Something cooler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super cool. Okay, we're on present the offer.
And if anybody wants that letter, I'd be more than happy to share it with you. So if you guys want to leave an email address, I'll make sure that our admin gets that over for you.
And I can send it to the other offices too, if you'd like
Perfect.
to have it.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Okay, presenting the offer checklist. So before you go ahead and present your offer, so I like to go through in Dotloop, I put everything in, I add in all my documents. A lot of times.
17.9, sorry, 17.9.
Oh, sorry, guys. Okay. I like to go through, I fill everything out on my contracts. So, I remember I had a broker who did not like any blanks in a contract. And so even if there's a blank space, we write NA, we write none. That way it's clear. I hate black and white. It has to be or I hate gray area. It has to be very black and white, just so it's very clear on what everybody has and what we're asking for. So I make sure everything is checked, everything is marked. In fact, we even have our buyers initial everything. So we also have a sheet that I'd be more than happy to share as well. And it's just a list of buyer expenses that your buyer can expect. So it talks about what an inspection costs, what the appraisal costs, like who pays for this. And so we actually have our clients initial that. If they have a septic system, I have them initial all the paperwork on what it takes for a Geauga County septic system to what has to be done. They initial every page of the contract, the agency disclosure down to the tax record form to the MLS documents. Everything has an initial on it. If the seller provides us with utility information, my buyer signs it. Everything is initialed. So I just make sure that everything is done. So we're clear that they've received it and they've reviewed it and they've signed off on it.
Now, if you're the listing agent and you're receiving an offer and there are empty boxes, you come back and say, wait a minute, I meant to check the box that we were going to have a pest inspection. If it's empty, do you know if that's a true story? If they wrote NA or none, then you can say, sorry, you signed off on that. We've already accepted your offer. You said no, we're moving forward. you don't want any ambiguity in your contract.
Yep. So follow the instructions, label all documents clearly. Order your documents logically. So the first document that goes out is the agency disclosure form, has to be the first one. And the reason why is because it explains who represents who in your real estate transaction. It makes it very clear from the beginning. And then from there, we put in our offer to purchase. I put in the pre-approval letter, the earnest or the promissory note, if we have that. And then I go into the important addendums that we've got, and then I get like the little junk paperwork at the very, very bottom.
Yep, you'll have an order for yourself that you'll organize everything in as soon as you download that loop. Is probably the easiest way.
I think they mentioned it in a previous slide, but was when you also reach out to your listing agent, verify how they want to receive the offer. We use .loop, but not everybody does. Or you've got a lot of the, some of the older agents that are like, I've been doing real estate for 40 years and I don't use .loop and I'm never using .loop, which is fantastic. So send them a PDF, verify they received it, call them, because they probably aren't so tech savvy either, and they probably don't text. So
And if you use .loop and you want just to have it in the system that you are sending it, you've got it date stamped and so forth.
and you can
Always
attach a
a-
PDF too with that.
Yep, that's the thing. Attach the PDF in the .loop. That way they've got it.
Also, I never write an offer without reaching out to a listing agent first. They know that there is an offer coming with my client every single time. So after I let them know that we're considering writing the offer, we write the offer, and then I will email them the offer. I will text them that they have an offer in their email, and I call them because I want to verify they've received it. And I say, please confirm receipt of this offer. If I don't hear from them, I am on them like white on rice. Like, did you receive our offer? Especially if we're in multiples. I cannot tell you how many times I've all of a sudden had an offer in my email with no phone call, no text message. And then I find it like the next day because nobody even
Yeah.
let us
that
know,
happens,
and
yeah.
it just gets buried in the email. So just make sure that you're doing the best for your client and making sure that the other agent knows that you sent that over. The other thing too, I always ask is, how soon will you be presenting our offer? Because I want to know, are they at work and they can't get to it till later? Do they need time? I'm fine with that as long as I know and I can get back to my client to say, your offer has been received. The sellers are at work. They're planning on meeting tonight. We should have an answer later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. As long as I know, I'm good.
Yeah, and always do give yourself that latitude. If you represent the seller, say it'll either be tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Because sometimes they've got stuff going on in their life also.
Mhm. Or
And-
they're on different shifts, or they just need a minute to sit down and talk about it.
Or they have different opinions about it. They need to sleep on it, you know?
That's true. That's the other thing I found, that sometimes we try to rush things too quickly. And sometimes it's good just to like take a deep breath, go to bed, wake up the next morning, and let's see how we feel about it. Cause it'll all work out no matter what.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I wanted to mention on that agency disclosure, make sure you're checking the broker's remarks in there and the supplements. Because
Mhm.
they may tell you that on the agency disclosure, you need to put their whole team's name or everybody that needs to be on there.
Yep.
On your side, if your admin is a licensed real estate agent, their name has to go on the agency disclosure. If you're on a team, your team will tell you what needs to be written in there. So
And
Just-
when you're writing the offer, take the time to look up the other agent's license number and their office number and fill in that information. I have countless times where I have to go back and fill that in for the buyer's agent because they did not fill it out.
we love to get offers that are filled out
I
completely.
do.
It's so nice. So yeah, make friends with the cooperating broker by filling that in for them, you know?
You know, because I think a lot of people too miss the boat on, building relationships with other agents, and it is so important to do it. And I tell you, it's a lot more fun to do business with somebody that you know and you're friends with versus an agent that you don't know, that you're like, oh, this is gonna be, you just know it's not gonna, you're just not gonna mesh because they're not up to date with everything. So it's make
Awesome.
friends. Add all the documents into Command and then consult with your buyer through the process. Okay. Anything else?
Any questions on presenting the offer checklist. Anything that you would add onto that checklist that's not up here?
I think just reviewing it before you actually send it to make sure it's correct. Sometimes you just get this rush and you
Yeah.
overlook.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And we're
yeah.
human, we all make mistakes, it happens.
Mhm. Okay. Receive and respond.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so receive and review the offer checklist. So make sure the, oh, do we do this one? No,
You know what?
we pretty much talked about a lot of this already.
Yeah, in the book, they go through the email summary for the listing agent. You might want to take a look at that in your Ignite books on page 17.10. So we talked about putting together the summaries. So you can see that the first bullet point is the buyer's name, just like you said, the sales price, when is the closing date? Is there financing? How much are they putting down? What type of loan is it? Pre-approval, who's the pre-approval through, and letting them know that it's attached. And then other buyer will contribute, or whatever other there might be. In other, there might be an escalation clause or an escalation addendum. So you might want to put that in there too. So if you're putting the offer amount, you might also want to say that there's an escalation. I want to also, do you call and ask the agent if they will, how they feel about escalation addendums?
So we actually don't do them on our team.
Okay, you
At
don't do
all.
them at all on your team?
Nope. Nope. And then so when we would actually sit down at our listing appointments, when we were in that hot market, we would actually sit down with our clients and say, this is your option with an escalation clause. Here's what happens. How would you like to move forward with it? And pretty much they were all said, we don't want to use them. So we would actually write in our broker's notes that we would only, the seller would only accept highest and best offer and no escalation clauses.
How does that escalation work?
So let's say you got an offer or you've got a property listed at 150,000 and you've got multiple offers. Somebody submits an escalation clause and they're willing to pay $500 over the other highest offer that's there, up to 160,000, let's just say. So if the offer comes in at, 155, they're now 155.5. So they're going over that $500.
Actually, $2,000 to make it worth their while. To me, $500 isn't worth.
Correct.
Everybody does it differently.
Yeah, but like you say, some of the agents just stop you right there and then like.
So here's why we actually stopped doing it.
Yeah,
When we were in the hot market and we were in multiples, we were actually netting our sellers more money by not doing the escalation clauses. Because I would find that they would offer the 160, that was their highest and best, but they were too scared to write that in, right? So when we eliminated the escalation clauses and we came back with the highest and best, their offers were coming in at the 160. And so we were actually netting our sellers more money by not having the escalation clause. And we would then go back and say, fantastic that you're going to offer the 160. Is your buyer willing to put in an appraisal gap as well? And we would write the appraisal gaps right in there. So our sellers would guarantee that money.
Now, see, if I was writing an offer on her listing and I didn't talk to her ahead of time and ask her that question, if I had used escalation addendums in the past, they wouldn't even consider my offer.
I would have called you back and
Yeah.
said, we're in multiples. By the way, it says in the broker's notes that the seller is not accepting escalation clauses.
But not
And
everybody
please,
would do that.
and please resubmit your highest and best offer.
So, and the last house the house I have under contract right now, for example, I explained to the seller what an escalation clause was. We got 5 offers and every single one of them had an escalation clause. It was so complicated for them
You just
to
take the
figure
highest
out.
one.
It's
It's
very
not always
difficult.
about price though.
No, yeah, it was very difficult. So we went, the seller actually decided, just push all of the escalation clauses aside. What is the best offer that we want to negotiate? So we went back and we negotiated at the best offer, and we asked for the appraisal gap, and they gave it to us. So it just depends on the seller, it depends on the listing agent, it depends on so many things, but it turned out that the offer that they wanted to negotiate was the one that had the base price that was the highest. But we negotiated a higher offer and got it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so escalation,
A higher offer, you've already.
I-
You
you call 'em-
asking price.
yep,
And they
but
negotiate, and they come in higher. How do you negotiate it higher than that? Because you're already getting what you. asked
because they
for.
had an escalation clause that would go up higher.
Oh, so it was. one
They
of the
did have an
escalation
escalation clause, but we pushed all those aside. They picked the one with the lender that they liked, the lender that they trusted the most to get it done. The terms they liked the best.
Mhm.
And then they went back to that buyer and said, hey, we really like your offer. Would you be willing to write that offer, or would you be willing to give us X, and will you guarantee an appraisal gap? And they said, of course we will.
Okay, explain the appraisal gap.
If the house appraises at, let's say the house is worth 250,000, the appraisal comes in at 250,000, but I offered them 270,000.
Mhm.
Normally what happens, Doris, if it doesn't appraise for what you offered them, what happens? The lender won't loan money on it, right?
So you're paid.
So they have to bring an extra $20,000 to the closing table, plus their closing costs and their down payment. And they said, yes, we're willing to do it. That way the lender can loan them the money. Yeah,
And with the appraisal gap, I usually have some type of verification from the lender that they have the cash on hand to do it.
right. That's right.
In fact, we won an offer because of that. So we were up against 6 other agents with our offer. The house was listed, I think, at 290. We wrote an offer at 315. And the reason why we got the offer was because we actually supplied the cash on hand that they had. They had like $90,000 in cash to cover that appraisal gap if needed. And because we had the documentation, that's why we got the offer.
Awesome.
Okay.
Receive and review.
Okay, I think we pretty much.
Yeah,
went
we
through
pretty
most
much
of
covered this.
You know, make sure the offer is complete, confirm the receipt of the offer, get your offer to the seller in a timely manner. Create the executive summary, which is on what page in there?
The executive summary is on 17.10.
Call the buyer's agent, call the lender. So like I said, we always call to verify, create an outline document reference that you can call the sellers. Okay.
So creating the offer in command. You all know that you have to create an opportunity, right? In command, and when you create the opportunity, you move that opportunity along. When you've written the offer, then you're gonna enter in an offer in command and accept it. And you can upload your documents. If you're on a team, your team probably does that for you. And that's where you'll put your commissions in also that you're expecting.
I think that's it. That was everything.
Oh my gosh, we're 45 minutes early, so let's get into, let's talk about your offer contracts. So is there any portion of the offer contract that you're struggling with? Have you've all looked at them? I know Danny, you probably haven't seen one yet. Is there anything that you don't understand or struggling to explain to your buyers in the offer documents? Or any questions about the documents that supplement the offer to purchase?
I feel like days always comes up, like, is this calendar days, business day, like, when does day one start and that type of thing? I feel like that's something we always have to talk to our clients about, just to
For
make sure
sure.
they understand, like. And 7 days, like what that means, it's not 7
Business days.
it's 7 calendar days. And
7
Like,
calendar days
what-
versus 7 business days,
That's
right?
something else to consider too. So when you write your offer, you have to take a look at the holidays. Because even though you're closing in 45 days, if you've got Thanksgiving and then you've got Christmas, or you have to just be aware that the title companies may not be open, and so those days may not count.
So the offer is accepted.
Okay,
So, oh, wait a minute, the offer is received, not necessarily accepted. Is your job done?
no,
Why?
because it's not accepted yet.
So what can you do?
I would reach out to the agent to see what else needs to be completed, where else we need to negotiate, and make sure that all the documents are signed. Once you're signed on both parties, you are officially under contract.
Do you ever call up the listing agent and ask them to please let you know if there's something in our offer that we could do better on? And I would be happy to go back to the buyer.
Sure, we would definitely do that. If for some reason we did not have that signed contract, I would definitely make that call.
Do you ask for the signed agency disclosure?
We have everything.
Yeah.
Everything is signed.
No, I mean, if for when they review the offers.
Oh, okay, so that's actually something really important to add in here then. So when we were in the multiple offer situation, what we would actually do is if the offers that were not accepted, we would either have the seller initial that the offer was rejected, and then they would initial, which actually was beneficial. So we had 5 offers on one of our listings, and I called the agent. It was one of those agents that like really didn't get in contact with me at all through the process. So when I called her to let her know, she goes, well, how do I even know that you even presented my offer? And I said, well, I will go ahead and I'll send you over the signed agency disclosure. We already had it done, which was awesome. I literally sent it right over, and she was like, thank you.
Yeah, what else
So it's
can you
good.
say?
It was good.
I have
Mhm.
a question about an agent making decisions for the seller. I had a deal, I wrote a contract, and I don't think she presented to the sellers. I think she was making all of the decisions.
That's why you ask for a copy of the agency disclosure that the seller signed declining your offer.
And then also
We were just
too,
in Negotiation. I don't think she was going back to the seller.
Oh, you were negotiating an
We were
offer?
negotiating, yes.
Did you already submit an offer in writing?
It was in writing, but she
Okay.
never got it back to me. She was just saying, well, can you do this? Can they do that? You know, I'm saying, that doesn't sound like the seller to me. That's what I was saying to myself. I think she was doing all the negotiating.
Well-
Because she said the daughter was out of town.
You
And she
still
had to
set the
call
offer,
her.
so they still should sign the agency disclosure form and say that they looked at it.
She didn't send it up the sign. It was verbal. Everything was verbal.
so I would have
Did you
asked her
offer
then
it?
if you could put it in writing. Can you please have the seller sign
Yeah.
that they received?
And
The
every,
offer.
that's a really good point too. Don't negotiate verbal like that. Do it in writing, do it in email. Everything that you ask for should be in writing. And if they call you or text you with a response, would you please respond to my email? Just so that we have a clean file. We have everything we need in the file.
The other thing
Yeah.
that we did is we were, I would also send an email out to the agents, and it basically said, thank you so much for your time in submitting your offer on our property. And, you know, we had 7 offers, and the sellers decided to accept another offer due to, you know, maybe it was inspections or it was price or whatever the conditions were. And so, you know, thank you so much for your time in writing this offer, and we wish your clients the best, basically. And I actually got a lot of compliments back on that, you know, we go, this is the 6th offer that we've written and we haven't had anything. So it was so nice to receive an email as to why we didn't get it this time.
I call every single person,
I do too.
every single person.
I mean, they take a lot of time out of their day to write an offer, and they're frustrated out there. So it's just a really nice courtesy to get back to them and just thank them for writing that offer and taking that time and,
Showing empathy.
yes. I'm
Show
really, really
empathy. It's a
sorry.
hard thing to do, to call them up and say, I'm sorry, you didn't
is.
get it. People fall in love with these houses,
They do.
and agents are weary.
So I had a
You know?
broker that told me that buying and selling real estate is just as emotional as marriage and death. And it's very, very true. It's a very emotional process, and people get very attached. And so being kind and courteous to people as they go through this process, because it's not about us, it's genuinely about them.
And tell them you hope to do business with them again someday soon.
Yep.
Someday soon. Yeah,
Hmm.
So
yes, absolutely. It is an emotional time. So, yeah, so we talked about the contract, days, is it? Or the, the days on the contract during your inspection, is it
Yeah, so
business days or calendar days? Make sure everybody is clear on that. Calendar days,
So even on a Sunday, that ROC has to get in.
calendar days, absolutely.
What day are you on?
Keep texting me, and I'm just kind of getting sick of it, to be honest.
You have 3 days.
What day are you on with it?
The inspection was, today is Thursday, the inspection was Tuesday.
Okay,
this
so,
day too?
yeah, you just keep
Right.
responding with, we'll respond within the terms of the contract.
No, and I don't try to promotion in it, trust me, I don't, but it's sometimes you get a little like, come on, give me. a
Don't
break.
let, only you have control over that,
I know,
right?
it's
So,
like you press me, like,
yeah,
it's kind of, I've never. like,
Yeah.
You give people the time.
Or maybe just give him a call real quick and just say, hey, we had the inspection. Overall, it went great. We just have these couple things that we're looking into and talking a little bit further, and we'll have everything back to you by tomorrow. Done.
That's perfect.
you can, yeah, you have to.
Cause they probably just
especially-
want to know, or their sellers are pressing them, like, how did the inspection go? Did anything come back? Do we have to, and he's probably relaying that back to
And when
you.
you don't know anything, it's so like, oh my God, there's something really bad and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, when you're a newly licensed agent, and I'm speaking from experience, other agents may try to be pretty pushy with you. They are, yeah, they try to be sometimes bullying and
But
all of
remember, you
that
guys are
stuff,
not
but,
new agents anymore. We're not new
Yeah.
agents anymore.
but if you stay, again, you stay calm,
Mhm.
you always point to the contract. Always point to the contract. It's not emotional. You always say,
It's facts.
we have 3 days to respond. That's how I've advised my client. We'll be back to you by whenever it's due. Yeah, and then that way you can,
Or if you need more time, write up your addendum, your ROC, stating that, buyers found X, Y, and Z during the home inspection and need 3 additional days to, get more information on it.
Right.
That's all. But at least just keeping everybody in the loop, and then that way we know, at least we know what's going on and we know we're moving forward versus like we just ghosted somebody.
Just don't
Communicate.
ignore 'em.
Can the listing agent or the selling agent deny you the extra, well, they probably could if the original was 3 days and they don't wanna wait because they have a backup offer. Do you think they could just kind of like, they can do that?
They
I
can
know
say
do
no.
that. I know
Yeah.
they- That's why I think this is kind of happening right now, because it is a backup offer and it's cash.
Oh, they have a backup offer.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they want to
Yeah,
know
but
if they're moving
But
forward.
they're
Yeah.
technically still in contract, so they can't like just blow me off though, or I don't know, I mean, like.
I would
me,
make sure that everything is by the book.
As long as I'm doing everything right. within
You're
the
good.
Days and timeframes, they can't, can they just back out? They can't normally. back
you haven't
out.
asked for anything yet.
No, we haven't.
So no, right?
Not yet.
Not
You've
yet.
got 3 days.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna wait.
If you know that you've got a backup offer, that's a hint.
It is, that's what's going on.
That's a hint. There's a backup offer, so I'd be strongly advising your buyer. Are you willing to lose this deal? Or is there another way for you to get these done? Because we can wrap it up right now by just accepting the house as is.
And that's. what we're trying to today, better.
Yeah, all you can do is advise your client in their best interest. Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
just there to try to help.
You got it.
Thank you, this is like, yes, I needed that, just those words.
That's another thing too, and I was kind of, that I experienced when we were going through the fund market a little while ago was, I was shocked at how many people did not want to do backup offers. That blew my mind. And so, I mean, we'd have 5 or 6 offers and I would either try to get people to do a backup offer and they're like, nope, we're good. We'll just find something else. I'm like, okay. Or I would say, can we do a backup offer? And they would be like, nope, seller doesn't want to do one.
Yeah,
But I've actually had that work out for my client. The lady with the gas issue, actually, She had looked at this house and it sat on the market for like 6 months. This was like way back in the day. And they lowered the price on the property, had an open house. She went to the open house, realized how much she still loved the house, called me, wanted to write the offer on it. They had another offer that they were just about to accept. Accepted the offer. She's in tears because she lost this house because she waited 6 months. And then ended up calling the agent back and said, can we just write a backup offer? Because she was cash. She was a cash buyer. And they said, yeah, we can go ahead and write a backup offer on it. And so we let it go. And then 2 days later, I got a phone call, Lauren, do you think that your buyers are still interested? And she got the house. So
And think
I
about it.
love backup offers.
Yeah, yeah. And if you think about it as a listing agent,
Then you have to put it back on.
are you gonna get a better offer after your deal falls through and you put it back on the market? Or are you gonna get a better deal right when you're accepting the offer?
Mhm.
Does a backup offer have a time frame on it typically? Like, let's say you do a backup offer, but it takes like 15 days, they come back to you and say, hey, this offer. fell
It's
through."
actually in your
Offer
contract.
valid.
Your
Yep.
buyer can actually still look for something else in the meantime. And if they find something, they can write. And then we put it in writing that the backup offer is now null and void.
Gotcha, okay.
So it's in the contract and you do that too. So if you find something else, you just send them an
So they're not
email.
tied.
We'd
It's
like to
just
be
that if that
released
one
from
falls
the,
through, you got first dibs on it again.
yep.
So.
Absolutely. It's a great idea to have a backup offer. Ask and go back, find, when you call the other agents that have submitted offers that didn't win. Ask your seller, which one, is there an offer here that we should go back and ask them if they want to submit a backup offer? Would you be willing to accept a back? Then you get the opportunity to explain that you're automatically under contract. If this one falls out, you'll be automatically under contract. There won't be any new negotiation. Will they be able to do an inspection? Yes, they will. But this way, we don't have to put it back on the market again, start showing it again. You're certain it's a beautiful place to be. Do you see any negatives in a backup offer, having a backup offer? I can't think of any.
Mm-mm.
Michael?
Your buyer just has to be prepared at any point in time to get a phone call saying, congratulations. you
Yep,
now have the house."
you got the
But I
house.
believe
Yeah.
too with the backup offer, they think they can still decide not to take it though, still,
Yes.
right?
I thought you were.
You're committed.
You're locked
bound.
in. You've signed an offer, yeah.
They could potentially inspect it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you're pretty much obligated to move forward with that contract.
Yeah.
But
And-
with backup offer, they have to have signed it. The
Mhm.
seller will have, it has to be signed.
It would be signed in order for it to be a backup offer, because
Yeah.
you're in the secondary position.
Right.
Mhm.
If you sign it.
Mhm. And you can still keep looking.
Yeah, you can kill, but you just have to make that phone call if you're gonna write. another
That's
offer,
right.
Withdrawing and
Yes.
sending email.
Yep.
just To terminate that.
Absolutely. I don't know what position you,
And you give this contract.
no,
Because
They can draw.
there was an amendment, or was it-
Yep.
Okay.
yep, you can back out at any time before they sign it. Who's got the sign-in sheet? Please pass that around. All right, perfect. Thank you. Yeah,
Seller.
the seller will sign up as a backup offer and on your contract, and that, I think it's the first paragraph after you write in the amount, right? And you'll write a date in there. It's good until a certain point.
Oh.
But if you're out looking and you find something else you want to write an offer on, you want to make sure you rescind the offer so that if you don't want to have two houses, right? Yeah. Yeah, so you can rescind the offer. Absolutely. So that's what you would ask your buyer. Do you want to rescind the offer? Especially if you're writing an offer that you think that you're probably going to
Gonna
win.
get,
We
yeah.
have a feeling, right? Sometimes we have no idea whether we'll win or not, but then in other times we know. Maybe the listing agent has given us some intel that tells us that we've written a really good offer and
How do you feel about taking her, like my buyer, this house that came back on the market? They really love the house, but I think they were a little skeptical because it didn't go through. What do you think about taking them back through?
I would call the listing agent to find out what happened and get as much information, and then you can then relay that back to your buyer. and say, oh, it was a financing issue, or maybe they did have an inspection issue and they fixed it and they corrected it. So then I would ask what that was, and then for the receipt of how it was corrected. And then you can go back to your buyer and say, this is what I found out. How do you want to move forward?
What other questions do you have? About writing the offer, preparing for the offer, receiving the offer, submitting the offer? Sure.
The broker, you know how like the broker's license number?
It's on the MLS sheet. So like right by their name, so you see like the brokerage name, and then you see like the slash before it.
Yeah, but the brokerage numbers are not really.
They're like 4 digit,
I
yeah.
thought it was longer than that.
No,
Okay.
So I have an issue right now with our purchase agreement because we have someone's individual license number there.
Is that what that is? That multiple numbers? Because our number's 9191
9181,
9181.
yeah.
But there's like this
There's-
2,
Because there's like a legitimate.
and it comes up automatically.
broker's license versus the broker
Number.
4-digit number.
Right, they want the long number, they want the long number. The long number is on the.
Oh, who's?
Yeah, but when you put the seller.
What she's asking is a legitimate, because
Right,
you have to do a lot of research to find out who the broker is. I just put the brokerage number there.
That's what we put. Oh, yeah, I just put the brokerage
in our-
number.
Contract right now for Keller Williams Living, it's, actually, I think it's still Amanda's.
Yeah, you'll want to let the broker know about that, for sure, yeah. All right, how about online? Do you have questions online about the material that we went through today? We're gonna go ahead and wrap up early today. Awesome. How are you doing on your accountability calls? Oh, we got a question. Somebody?
Sorry, no, we're good. So we appreciate all the content today, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
I do actually just have one question.
Sure.
I don't know if there's any way to make this stronger, but I've dealt with it twice within the last 2 weeks on 2 different offers. Is there any way to make a house sale contingency offer not look as terrible as they are? So I had a client that wrote on a $500,000 home, and their offer was the highest, and they were listing their house within 3 days of the accepted offer, but the sellers obviously were just, scared with the house sale contingency. I wasn't sure if there was anything else I could have done to make the offer stand out.
That's a good question. Well, I
Yeah.
think we're coming out of a strong market that we didn't see that for a long time. And the market is shifting, and people are still trying to catch up, I think, with the new market we're coming into. Could you maybe provide them with some information of comps and what the days on market it looks like on other properties that are similar to theirs that you could supply the seller with?
Yeah, and so we actually kind of came up with a game plan after they had their offer rejected. So they're thinking of just going ahead and listing their home. They're just scared to do it because they're like, I don't want to be homeless. And I was like, no, that would never happen. I told them, we'll put your house on the market and say the sale of your home's contingent on you finding a new home. And I went over all the comps with them and stuff. They just haven't decided to pull the trigger yet with listing their house first. But I did go over the comps and stuff with them last week. But
Do you know what the days on market looks like for their house?
So for their area, it's roughly 20 to 25 days.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad. So highlight that for sure. It's going to be your challenge to find a seller that doesn't have to move right away, that's willing to
Right.
wait for them. So sometimes you got to sweeten the pot in the offer to get them to say, okay, we're going to go ahead and accept this offer. We like their story. I've heard that before. We like their story.
Yeah.
We've shown them the comps, that there's nothing else in their neighborhood available. It's 25-day average days on market.
We're expecting an offer, maybe even go into what your game plan is. So if their property doesn't sell within X number of days, what's your game plan to do the price improvement to get their house sold faster?
Okay.
Maybe offer to pay seller closing costs if they are able to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any other ideas?
a bridge loan or a recast for her seller, so that way we
Oh.
can eliminate the contingency.
If they have equity in the house or they convert their whole mortgage into a home equity line of credit. And then they could maybe use some of that equity then to purchase very similar to the bridge loan.
Do you understand what we're talking about?
So I was just informed like more information about the bridge loan yesterday. So now I kind of have a better understanding of it. So I'm meeting with them tomorrow. So I'm gonna go over that with them too, in case we come in that situation again where, they find a house they love before they list their home.
Is this somebody you've been working with for a while, or is it somebody that's fairly new?
Yeah, so they're actually like some of my best friends. I've been working with them since I've had my license. It's just for the last year, they've just been very kind of lackadaisy about it. But now within the last month or so, they've been really adamant about finding houses. And they found one that they loved, which of course was the one, they didn't get. But now they're starting to send me more houses and be more involved in stuff. So I think we're at a point now where, they just have to decide if they want to list their house first, or, obviously I have to go into more detail with them about the bridge loan, see if that's something they're willing to do. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
thank
Do they
you.
owe a lot on the property? Do they have a large mortgage on there?
On their current home?
Yes.
No, so they actually, it's a home in Brunswick and they bought it as a foreclosure and
Okay.
they redid the entire home. And then they refinanced it last year or 2 years ago. So their mortgage isn't bad at all on it.
Okay, so I had a client, actually, they ended up not becoming a client, but we had listed a property and then the neighbor down the road had called us. He was trying to move out of state to be with his daughter. And he did not owe anything on his property at all. He owned it free and clear, but he wasn't able to purchase the next house because he still owned that one. And for some reason, like he needed the fund, that's what it is. He needed the funds out of his house to then go purchase the next one. So what he did is he went and converted his entire mortgage into a home equity line of credit, because he was then able to take the equity out of his home to purchase the next one then without being a home sale contingency.
Oh, okay.
Just some way to be creative. May not work for everybody, and I would definitely recommend a financial advisor when making decisions. However, it is an option.
I love
Yeah,
that.
thank you. I
Little
love that.
disclaimer.
Little disclaimer in there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna see home contingencies come up, right? So in your buyer consultation, it's not impossible to buy a home with a home contingency, sale contingency. So set them up for success by understanding that if you're going to look at, you fall in love with the house that's been on the market for a while, you've got a better chance of making that happen. If it's within the first week that it's been on the market, or 2 weeks even now, then that seller might say, wow, I think we want to wait a little bit longer before we tie ourselves up, into a contract. And you might even get what's the other one? There's home sale concurrency. Yeah, home sale concurrency.
It's been a long time since we've seen those.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
did one of those last year, and it worked out fine.
Oh, good.
Yes, it worked out. I mean, it was like in November.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta remember.
sale?
It's been so long. I have to look it up almost. Hold on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So a home sale concurrency is, we have so many days to sell the house, right? We're gonna put it on the market and we have so many days to sell the house. Yeah, pull up the contract so that we can take a look at it, because I don't remember all the
Yeah,
terms.
let's
It's
pull it
been
up on-
so
Can we pull it
long.
up on your dot loop?
Yes, I think we
That way it can go up
can.
on there.
Here we go. Home sale concurrency.
You know, your house is going to sell right away. It's easy.
No, I typed it wrong.
Oh, so basically what it is you've got the seller's house is on the market and your house is on the market at the exact same time.
So it's a race to the finish.
Basically, yeah.
If I sell my house before you get another offer, I get first right of refusal,
Mm-hmm.
right? I get first right of refusal if you got another offer. Or if I get an offer on my house, then we move forward in the contract. That's a home sale concurrency. I don't know why I can't get in. Sorry about that. It's really weird. Oh, because the caps are on. There we go. Templates.
Does anybody have any other questions while we're reading them? Any information that we didn't cover that had questions about, or that you would have liked to learn more about today?
Well, you were good.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, here it is. Perfect. Okay, so it says concurrency, both the above property and the buyer's property, and with the address, shall be offered with a licensed real estate brokerage and active in the system for sale concurrently from the formation of this agreement through X date. So you're putting a time limit on it, right? And then it says, if a fully signed sales contract for the buyer's property is obtained first, then this purchase agreement shall be in force and effect subject to the completion of the sale of the buyer's property. If a fully signed sales contract for the seller's property is obtained first, then this purchase agreement shall be null and void, and seller and buyer agree to immediately sign a release. If within the concurrency period, a fully signed sales contract is not obtained on either property, then the agreement shall be null and void. I seem to remember that we had a first right of refusal. We used to have a language in there with a first right of refusal. Do you remember that? Anybody?
I thought we did.
The concurrency, and there's the other house sale contingency, and I
Yeah.
have to look out.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's from something you could write in there.
But this might be
If they
something
got
that might be
another
coming
offer.
back, though.
Yeah, you never know. We might start seeing these again as well.
Mhm.
I'm sure. They're gonna come back.
Awesome. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We're going to see you next Tuesday, the last week of Ignite. Thank you so much for sticking in there with us, everybody.
Yes. Oh, the buyer expenses.
Buyer
it the buyer
expenses.
expenses sheet?
Okay. And I want to welcome El Marie. She joined KW Living this week. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much
Does
for
everybody
joining
have
us.
their email that wants that? Did they supply their email?
I just put a little note.